Hi. Welcome. I'm Stacy Shoemaker Rauen. I am the editor-in-chief and associate publisher of Hospitality Design magazine. Thank you guys so much for being here at HD Expo 2017. I'm super excited about the panel that we have here today. In my job, I'm lucky enough that I get to go around to all the hotel investment conferences and hear these industry leaders speak about what's top of mind, what they're paying attention to. But we realized that that's not always the case for the design conferences. So it was our idea to bring them here. And by chance and happenstance, they were all available. And so I'm just super excited to introduce Bill Walshe, from CEO of Viceroy Hotel Group, Brad Wilson, president of Ace Hotel Group, Jay Stein, CEO of Dream Hotel Group, and Mr. Mark Harmon of Auberge Collections and Resorts. So we are going to just kind of start off. I hate reading bios. I hate saying what you do because you guys can do it better than I can do it. So if you want to give me your 90-second elevator pitch, your company, who you are, and then we can kind of start the conversation. Bill, do you want to go first?
Great. Hi, everybody. Thanks for being here. My name is Bill Walshe. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of the Viceroy Hotel Group, which usually in any gathering of hospitality colleagues means that I'm the person in the room with the least meaningful job title in the room, because I'm typically surrounded by people that are super action-focused. I have restaurant managers who manage restaurants, cocktail servers who serve cocktails, interior designers who design interiors, and I'm the Chief of the Executives. So I rather consider myself to be the Chief Pride Officer of the company. And I think that fundamentally what we're here to do in hospitality is to make people proud. We make our guests proud, we make our colleagues proud, we make our investors proud. And that's what we are. We're a small little proud company. We have 14 open and operating hotels. We have 8 in the pipeline. And ultimately what Viceroy is an oxymoron. We're this glorious collision of opposing forces of consistency and individuality. Sufficient consistency in the company to make sure that we can do what we need to do, but stopping short of allowing consistency and process to suffocate spontaneity and energy and individuality and authenticity. I'm the luckiest person that I know. I love what I do. I'm surrounded by incredible talent, and we're having a good time at Viceroy.
Nice. Great. Brad?
Wow. Transferring. I'm Brad Wilson. I'm the president of Ace Hotel Group, or some of us know us as Atelier Ace, which is a small group of creatives that have somehow stumbled into the hotel world. And so I think we pretty much have developed hotels that have a certain kind of signature experience. We believe in, actually we call ourselves a friendly hotel, and I think that's core to everything that we do. So we start at nice. We kind of work from there. We add some design and some personality. We're big on personality. And together we try and create unique hotels for the cities that we inhabit. So.
Great. Jay?
Jay Stein, I'm the CEO for Dream Hotel Group. I don't come out of the creative world. I more come out of the hotel world. Started at the very bottom as an assistant restaurant manager in a 900-room hotel in the World Trade Center in New York in 1982, and worked through many, many different positions up through GM, and then area GM, VP, and eventually up to the CEO role. Our company is basically made up of 4 brands, obviously the Dream, Time, Unscripted, and the Chatwell. We deal in the upscale, upper upscale, and lifestyle segments of the industry. We've got about 16 hotels that are open that we either own or operate and don't own, or maybe have some equity investment in those as well. And we have about another 16 properties currently in our pipeline that are under some stages of development. 1 or 2 that may be opening in a couple of weeks, and others that may be opening in a couple of years, or 3 or 4 years. And we're going to make an announcement, hopefully in the next month or so, of the next signing. So a lot on the table.
We'll see if we can get that out of you at the end of the hour. Mark?
Thanks, Stacy. Mark Harmon, founder of the Auberge Resorts Collection. And we're a company that's made up of a collection of all individually designed hotels. And we like to say that the hotels are known by their first names. So the Hotel Jerome in Aspen, Esperanza in Los Cabos, Auberge du Soleil in Napa. And all the hotels, though, have a common last name, the Auberge Resorts Collection. So we put together a group of hotels that addresses the luxury market. We're actually the company with the highest average rate of any luxury properties in North America. I'm proud of that, and the fastest growing company in that segment right now. Because all our hotels are different and they reflect the character of their property, their destination, and so forth, what I think binds us together is our love of hospitality. We love what we do. We try to create an exceptional guest experience through the spa, through the cuisine, through great service, highly personalized service that comes from within, from our people who are speaking with their heart and their voices. We celebrate creativity and try to create a place where people are respected for what they do and honored for what they create, and at the end of the day, derive great satisfaction and enrich their own lives as well as the lives of our guests.
Awesome. All right. As I said, much better than bios. So let's talk. I mean, you guys are all, we try to put together a group so you all know that we think are pushing the boundaries on F&B, on design, on innovative thinking in the lifestyle and luxury space. So let's kind of start with what's one hotel that you're really excited about that's coming up, and why do you think or just opened, and why do you think that kind of speaks to what you guys are doing as a brand, as a company, as a group? Let's go backwards. Mark.
Okay. Well, we just announced a property outside of Park City, Utah. It's on 3,500 acres, and it's called the Lodge at Blue Sky. There's already there a wonderful program, a guest ranch with stables. There's a whiskey distillery, the High West Distillery, and the plan is to build a contemporary mountain lodge. It's under construction right now, beside a creek with a spa, great restaurant, and then all these activities. And the reason I love it is the things I love doing, from hiking to a yurt in the summer or snowshoeing up there in the winter. We've got cat skiing, we've got fly fishing, and horseback riding. We have the whiskey distillery, so you got clay shooting, guns, whiskey, and horses. How can you go wrong?
Jay?
Well, we've got, like I said, about 16 projects. We're excited about all of them. One of the most exciting parts is that we have one of each of our brands that are at least one of each that are under development. And but obviously our closest property being opened is the Dream in Hollywood, and it's an amazing project for us. It's kind of similar to our flagship on the East Coast, the Dream Downtown property. Though it's only about 180 rooms. There's significant public areas, restaurants. We're partnered again with the Tao Group on that deal. So we have I think when the restaurants opened a couple of weeks ago, two of the restaurants, Beauty and Essex and Tao, were both the largest seated restaurants in LA. So tremendous volume of business. They should do about $1 million in revenue a week. But the hotel opens in about a month. We should have all the rooms available at that time. Maybe our meeting space may come a couple of months later. Phenomenal rooftop, somewhat similar to the PhD in New York. This will be known as the Highlight Room. And up there we're going to have 3 different venues, a great pool lounge in the center, a grill room, and then kind of a nightclub, a lounge that'll be able to be closed in so we can go fairly late and fairly loud. We'll be able to see great views of the Hollywood sign, of downtown LA, and on a rare, clear day, you could actually see to the water. But a very exciting project for us. I'm going to throw one more out there that you said
go
maybe we'll
ahead.
get one out of you on this announcement. So, and Mark should probably be running this for us. We're going to introduce a new project called the Chatwell Lodge. And for those of you that may have heard about our luxury property called the Chatwell in New York, we're doing one in upstate New York near Bethel, which is where Woodstock was and where the Performing Arts Center is in Bethel. It's about 5 miles or so. 2 beautiful lakes, trout fishing, and we'll do one main lodge where the F&B and the spa will be, and then about a 5-minute walk to where the villas will be along the one of the lakes. Probably around 50 keys, but very exciting, and we'll announce that in the next month or so.
We got it out of them. Early, too.
That's the only
It
one.
was easy. Brad.
Well, I guess for us, we're actually shocked and excited. We're opening a hotel in Chicago, due to open in September, and for the first time, I think, ever, we're going to end up being early, which is really unusual. So
How do you do that?
How did you do that?
Like, I'm still in. I just got a call that they just had their first walkthroughs for the C of O, and they're looking for probably rooms ready by July 15th. So.
What? Okay.
Kind of interesting, so we'll have a very long preview there. But the Chicago Hotel is really great little hotel. It's our actually first new build hotel, where we actually had the opportunity to design the hotel from the very start. We occupy buildings that were built like around 1900, 1920, so it's a new twist for us. We are a bunch of frustrated creatives, so we dug deep into the history of architecture and design in Chicago, which is a great opportunity and great fun, and based a building that's really based on some of the core teachings of the Bauhaus and the Chicago design direction. So it's a fun, new, modernist building, which is something completely new for us.
Yeah.
So we've had a lot of fun with it. It's also it's the first hotel in the Randolph-Fulton Market District in Chicago, which I think right now is, having somebody who kind of grew up in Chicago, going back to Chicago, it couldn't have been a better choice. When I was a kid, it was the slaughterhouses, and today it's actually kind of the center of the restaurant bar scene and all of that kind of stuff. So it's sort of fun to be bringing the first hotel into that district. We got a great team. We just announced that Jason Vincent, who owns Giant, which is probably one of the premier creative kitchens in Chicago, is joining us to do the restaurant in the first floor lobby spaces, and then we're also launching along with our team out of our LA roof top. We'll be doing a roof bar on that building as well. So it's a really cool new twist for us to do something so modernist, but I think at heart we're really modernist, so it will be an interesting one.
More challenging new build, or just different set of challenges?
You know what? So I guess going along with the fact that this one's actually potentially going to open 6 weeks early, which
Maybe
is just
easy.
unheard of in our business. It was such a smooth project. No, we're actually kind of interested in the fact that new build is a little more predictable than our other buildings have been, where every time you open a wall, you find something that scares you to death. Now we actually only have things that we said, let's put there. So
Yeah.
it seems to work a lot better in some ways.
Yeah, great. Bill?
Well, up to about 2.5 minutes ago, I was going to proudly state that we are on target to open our Chicago hotel on September 1. Opening on time is making me feel like a slacker now. So
No, it's like really
clearly
weird.
I'm
I
6
don't know
weeks
how it
late,
happened.
but congratulations. I have to say, the dream in LA is extraordinary. I mean,
Though it's only a year late, so
some things are worth waiting for.
Yeah.
I've just come back from a 3-week stay in Dubai, overseeing the opening of Viceroy Palm Jumeirah Dubai.
In the latest issue of Hospitality Design magazine, up there on the Expo floor. Go ahead.
A little bubble.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. I'm very proud of the hotel. It's a very unique expression of contemporary luxury for Dubai. It's very modern. It's a large glass structure. It's infused with very many American, specifically Californian moments. Not just Californian, the arrival experience is into a 15 by 15 meter all-glass cube. Think Apple Store in Manhattan, with a 3-dimensional beechwood structure reflecting the DNA of the hotel. and then from there you get into the functional areas. And we tried to be attentive in the detail to the hotel to create those points of differentiation and those moments that express who we are and where we grew up as a brand. A little bit of irony in there as well. So our hotel cars are Teslas. We flew in Teslas to Dubai, first people to have it, and are still awaiting the reaction of the authorities that we have clearly cars that do not require petrol, which may or may not go down well. But it's a wonderful expression of modernity, as I say, in a market that is not short of quality supply. I spent 7 years in Dubai with the Jumeirah Group and was involved in opening many of their projects, which are incredible, amazing hotels. We felt that there was a gap, that it was time to step away from the evolution of the Ottoman, the Arabesque in terms of design and architecture, and just do something completely different. And so far the reaction that we're getting, particularly from a younger audience and younger GCC nationals, younger Emiratis, is there's relevant product for us. This reflects who we are. This reflects kind of the Apple generation. And we're enjoying that. And one other, because that's a new build, I think probably the favorite renovation, repositioning and relaunch I've ever done, we completed a few months ago, which is Viceroy L'Hermitage in Beverly Hills. I mean, it's always a great hotel, has a great residential feel, never really lived up to expectation or potential. Its inner luxury spirit had never been unleashed. And together with SFA Design, we undertook just the most incredible journey to change, to reposition, to relaunch the hotel. We've seen a 60% uplift in rate. Our new food and beverage offering is going extremely well. But more importantly, the hotel has been hugely accepted by the residential community who live within 10 blocks of it, which had never really happened before. So somebody else mentioned sense of community earlier. I think that's incredibly important, and I'm very proud that we've added to the community of Beverly Hills with that renovation.
That's great. And it leads me to my next question, which is even perfect. So you talked about relevancy and this new guest and the younger generation. I mean, we try not to write the word millennial as much as we can in the magazine, but they're there. They're changing how we think about hotels. I mean, for each of your companies or collections or brands or what do you call it? I mean, what do you think guests are looking for today? How are you challenging that, creating that authentic experience that seems to be not a buzzword, but just what people are craving these days? How are you trying to figure that out within your companies and obviously doing it successfully? Brad, I'll turn to you.
Oh, okay.
Because you're looking at me.
Tag me. Well, I mean, I think at core, we've always tried to be kind of authentic to what we do, and a little how we engineer spaces and things like that are just naturally kind of social. I think it comes from our roots. We built our first hotel as building a hotel for our friends, and I think we always kind of understood space as being a place of communal existence, whether that be communal work or communal social. And so all of our programming has always been really around that. It was interesting kind of listening to the programming and paneling conversation this morning, kind of how these elements are becoming more and more important in different levels. And that's like, for me, I'm the little guy on this group because these are all beautiful hotels and we just do these little projects. But what we've always tried to do is make those very social. But what's interesting is now seeing how that's actually expanding. And we never use the millennial word, though I think that tag has been put heavily on our back. And it's interesting because we never use that word because that's actually not who we see our customers being. But again, somebody actually this morning talked about the fact that it's not really millennials, it's an entire social movement of all ages, and that's what we've always seen. It's how people are living today in a connected world is just different than they used to. And so whether that's how they work on a desk in a room or it's how they work in a lobby, those are incredibly important things for us to take seriously. And we have to really reinvent them in each environment, in each city, for that customer and how they work. When we opened our hotel in LA, We at that point had been heavily in the press from the most recent opening, which was our hotel in New York, and it was all about our lobby, our lobby, our lobby. And we opened our hotel in LA, and our hotel in LA doesn't have a lobby. And everybody thought our entire brand was about that lobby, which we appreciate, but we didn't see it that way. We saw it about a social lifestyle. And when we opened LA, that was really about being outside. And you don't go to California to sit in some dark lobby in the center of a building. So we kind of like blew that up and said, no, actually the environment there is about being on a roof and around trees and things of that sort. So I think the real importance to staying authentic, it really has to be in how you invent that hotel.
Right.
I mean, I don't think you get more authentic than maybe whiskey, guns, and horses. That sounds pretty authentic to me for that location. If you tried to play that in Manhattan, it might feel a little hokey. And sometimes what I find weird is how the term authentic has been tagged onto a certain look or feel. So when I hear people say like, oh yeah, and then we used like reclaimed wood and concrete floors so it could be authentic, but that might be authentic to a building that was historically concrete floors and had exposed beams, but like somehow when you sort of apply it, is it still authentic if applied? And probably not, no more than taking something very urban and sticking it in the woods.
Yeah. Huh? Well put. Anyone else have any?
You know, again, the millennial thing is not something that we focus on. It was more the state of mind for the type of guests that we try to attract. We opened our first lifestyle hotel in 1999 with the Time Hotel in New York, and I think a lot of our hotels still emulate that kind of philosophy where there's a social environment throughout the public areas. Great food and beverage. We worked with Jean-Louis Paladin way back then, and a great lobby bar on the second floor. And you know, we've expanded it, and it's kind of gone on steroids to some degree, but still a lot of the same philosophy. And I give a lot of credit back to Ian Schrager, and he kind of looked at our industry and said, "God, you got this whole thing wrong." And we put design elements to our hotel and fun public areas for guests to be able to use, local guests, not just the hotel guests. I usually say to owners that the last concern I have is who's staying in the hotel when we're thinking about food and beverage and other amenities that we're going to offer. I think about the community that we're in, and I've never seen a hotel guest come down and see a crowded bar with local people having a great time and be upset that it wasn't aimed at them or something. So
I have.
That happened to me.
So that's not our concern. Where I do see it's different is truly in the marketing and social media, obviously, and how we market to guests, and the use of marketing certainly has changed dramatically. And we now have marketing managers on property as opposed to sales and marketing positions. They're all separate now, and they're whole different departments. So a lot of difference there. But I think, for us, again, we've been in the lifestyle business since 1999, and I don't think we've changed all that much in terms of what we try to do with our hotels.
Right.
So, Stacy, we're seeing across the board, whatever age, that there are really two things that our guests are looking for in this resort experience, and that would be a transformative experience and deepening a personal connection or connections. And sometimes those two can collide. It might be a marriage proposal or something like that. But what transformative experiences, I mean, that's a lot about what we're doing in our Auberge Adventures, and we're trying to come up with some really fun, creative things to really experience the destination and get out and have an adventure, whether it's going in an ultralight, skimming over the tops of the waves in Costa Rica, or riding a horse in Utah, or hiking Highlands Bowl in Aspen, Colorado. So really being setting up these wonderful things, and then as a part of that too, the deepening of personal connections is about finding ways to reconnect, finding ways to, and we've been extraordinarily fortunate in that our properties have been host to so many celebrations and milestone events and things like that. So we're particularly attuned. We like to think that we listen very carefully to what our guests are trying to do and help them out in ways that are maybe a surprise and that will delight them to enhance their experience and come away with it with a better connection to whoever they're traveling with. And that's across the board. So it isn't a millennial experience, it's across the board.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, in your question, you said, what is the guest or the millennial expecting? And I think whether it's millennial or any other age group, any other demographic, I think increasingly what they're expecting us to do is to make a commitment. And it is to make a commitment to the relevance of our product through design, activation, programming, and deployment to them. And one of the things that we've suffered from as an industry over the years is trying to be something for everyone.
Yeah.
And if you try to be something for everyone, inevitably you're going to be bland, because there will be no marks of distinction. There will be no confidence in tone of voice. We're in Nevada, not California, so I can be a little bit less politically correct. I was told very early on in my career, in business as in life, you can't get half pregnant. And I think that when it comes to hotel design, we've made a career out of that in our industry by trying to say, if a 75-year-old retired couple walks in or a 24-year-old young couple walk in, let's be relevant to them. And it just cannot happen. If you are Gant, if you're Armani, if you are Dolce & Gabbana, you know who you're designing for, and you understand that your audience will be passionate about that, but others might not get it. They'll respect what you're doing, but it's not relevant to them, they won't connect with it, and they'll go shop somewhere else. And I think that the future for hospitality and design is, let's understand who our customer is, and let's deliver the integrity and the respect of creating product that is absolutely relevant to them, recognizing that the quid pro quo is that some people will walk through the door and walk back out because they don't get it. But you know what? If the people that we are aiming a particular product at, the Hotel Zeta in San Francisco, one of our kind of by Viceroy experiences, which is very specifically designed for the young tech executive in San Francisco, they want to feel that we have taken the time, the consideration to make it relevant to their lifestyles, to their values, to their design aesthetic. And other people won't get it, and that's okay.
Yeah. Brad's applauding. So much to go off. Okay, so I think also part of that is finding the unique collaborators that you guys work with, especially F&B for Dream and also for you, Brad. I mean, how do you kind of dig in to create the experiences that you do and understand the local market? I know, Brad, you guys are very hyper-focused on that. And then Jay, I mean, you have had some amazing success with the Tao Group and some other of your collaborators. So how do you find these people and how do you choose who fits and who doesn't, and what's kind of that process like to create these experiences?
So our main philosophy is not to bring a formula. So we look at each property that we're working on, whether it's one we own or for other owners, and the theory is, how do we make it the most fun, most exciting hotel in that market? And then we work backwards from there. And if it happens to be a food and beverage operation that makes sense, that we're running ourselves, we may recommend that. If it's with a group that we've already partnered with, like Serafina, Jeffrey Zakarian, the Tao Group, and a number of others, we would recommend that. Or we may come to the local market, see if there's somebody that's really hitting it out of the park there that we think would make sense for this project. I'll give you an example. In Dallas, we're building a Dream property there, and we looked at some of the local operators to see if that was maybe, and we met this gentleman, Joe Palladino, who owns Nick and Sam's, the largest grossing operation in Dallas. He just has great connections to all the influencers in the Dallas market, and we met with Joe. We spent a lot of time with him to see if it looked like it would make sense. That's one of the rare projects that we own. We're building it ourselves, and we just saw this great connection and just thought the value to have him, the lines would be around the block on day one, what it would help to create. And the reason that we were so fixed on getting this F&B excited and really vamped up, whether we'll make more money on it, but we also share money, obviously, if we're working with other partners. but it helps the average rate tremendously. You know, if we could become the most exciting or the second most exciting hotel in the market, guests want to stay there, and they'll pay a rate premium, and that rate premium is anywhere from $15 to $50 a night, let's say, over another great hotel that isn't as high a demand. And that rate premium has no expense associated with it, and it all flows to the bottom. So if you're talking 150 keys, 80% occupancy, you know, at $20, $30 a night, 365 days a year, it's a lot of money that has really virtually no expense associated. So we're very, very conscious to try and make sure that this F&B not only is profitable, but it is exciting, creating a lot of buzz and PR value. So yeah, as I said, we don't bring a formula. We look at the market, and we look at our current solutions, see if they may be right, or if a new local player. The other nice thing, when we go to look to these other local operators, they may not work directly with the owner in that market. Why do I want to work in your hotel? But if Dream's coming in and they say, wow, the Dream is going to be here, and they look at some of our other properties and the success, and if we, let's say, do a property in Dallas, now we may do one in Austin or Houston, San Antonio, and this operator now has a chance to grow with us. So we may be able to bring that great operator into the fold where the owner himself may have no opportunity.
Right. Go.
I think in terms of choosing people to collaborate with, and for smaller companies, collaboration is extremely important. Typically, you'll find a few people, whether it be in F&B, whether it be in design, whether it be in whatever form of collaboration, who have the capability that you're looking for collaboration. So, you know, the what they do is there. The how they do what they do is usually there in a number of people as well. For me, the essence of successful collaboration goes one step back from that, and it's making sure that there's alignment in the why they do what they do, and investigating that as intimately as we do the how they do what you know. We're a company run on an ideology. It's an ideology of pride. We have a very distinct and activated ideology for our company. It talks about commitment to authenticity and individuality and respect and creating wealth, being unabashed provocateurs, bringing positive disruption. And it's very important for me, irrespective of existing product quality and execution capability, that the people I collaborate with share those values. That the journey then becomes a journey of alignment and honesty, where we can agree and disagree as vigorously in a respectful way, where ego doesn't get in the way of making that guest happy and creating those extraordinary memories. And starting out with shared success in mind. I used L'Hermitage as the example earlier on. I remember the first ever conversation I had with Cara Smith of SFA, and she said, what do you want this hotel to be? And I started to talk about colors and design. She said, no, what do you want it to be? I said, I want to be able to stand unobserved in any area of this hotel, and I want to see guest behavior that is them reaching out and touching. I want this to be a tactile environment, and I want them to reach out and touch subconsciously. And she said, okay, that's our starting point, and for the next 3 years, we stayed faithful to that. And we had moments of glorious alignment, and we had huge grown-up rows. And she would tell me when I was wrong, and I would tell her when I didn't agree as well. So for me, collaboration, yes, the component parts of quality and capability have to be there. But if you don't live in the headspace with your collaborator, it will inevitably end up in divorce.
Oh, but yeah, Mark.
I'd echo that, Bill, that when we start out looking at who to collaborate with on a project, really like to look at the project itself, and whether it's a ground-up development or a renovation, and we try to come up with a germ of an idea that expresses what this project is going to be all about. So I mentioned about the Blue Sky Lodge in Utah, and the theme there is luxury with wild abandon. So, I mean, that's a pretty good place to start. It doesn't say what the style of it necessarily is going to be. It doesn't say, we know where we're positioned, we know who our market is. And when we go out and look for designers and others to collaborate with, we want people who can take and run with that, you know, be extremely creative, come up with all the possibilities. I was listening to Jim Tinson this morning from Howard Howerton talking about breaking through the silos and breaking the rules, disruption, another way to express that. But, you know, how do you break through those things and come up with something that's really a lot of fun and it's creative. You know, we know from a programming side what we need and so forth, but it's a collaboration that depends on finding people that really are excited, passionate, and interested in making a difference in the design of the project.
Yeah, go for it.
We're working with Jim.
Can I
on the
just
Chatwell
jump
Lodge.
back in, Jay, for 1 second on that, for literally 10 seconds? And I think that positive disruption overall is talked about a lot, and we're all looking for disruptive partners. But it's got to be disruption with purpose. Disruption without purpose is interruption. That's where the alignment comes in. The end goal has to look the same for the disruptors that come together. Otherwise, it becomes competitive disruption as opposed to glorious. Sorry.
I agree.
I'll be quiet now.
Yeah.
You don't have to be quiet. You have on stage. Brad, anything to add, or?
Obviously, this is a long conversation we've been having. You know, for us, each of our projects have always been art projects. They've always been friend projects, so they're based in collaboration. So maybe to some extent, actually, we don't start with an initial idea. We start with initial people we want to be involved in it. And so whether that goes all the way back to Dwayne when he had one little stump town in Portland, and we said, will you come to New York with us? And he's like, no. And we said, well, we'll build you a roaster in New York. And he's like, okay. And now he's like some big coffee company. I think our projects start with the people. And so for us, it's really like when we go to a new market and stuff like that, we spend a lot of time in market creating friends, and those friends tend to influence our projects and really create. They are the core. They're the seeds to what we do.
Awesome. So you guys, you know, as heads of these companies, have many different things that you have to do on any given day. What is top of mind for you in the industry, in you know, the economy, in politics, if we even want to get there? But you know, what keeps you up at night, or what are you paying attention to that, you know, ultimately affects your day-to-day these days, since y'all are so busy at the same time?
As we all sit up here saying we have 10 or 12 projects in the pipeline, if we don't have something in the back of the head worrying about oversupply, then we're crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, is the market too saturated?
Well, New York, I'm not worried about it anymore. It's just devastated it. So
Is what?
it's devastated that market already. It's come in the New York City market, the overbuilding. We've added almost 80% more rooms in a 8-year period of time. And the occupancy is still as strong as they were, but it's really kept the rates from moving where they should. And I think you'll see that in other markets, not to the same degree, but it will hold back. You know, you get a hot market, and whether it's Nashville or Austin, and hotels start to open. But that's what our industry does.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree, and then the worry becomes, can we find partners with whom to develop in new emerging destinations? And then the worry from that is you're developing in an emerging destination and it's hard to get it done. We're doing a resort product in Bocas del Toro in Panama, which will have overwater villas that haven't really been done in that part of the world. And it's tremendously exciting, but it is by no means an easy build. And then the next worry is going to be, how do I find the talent to be in that location and to activate and bring the hotel to life? And talent is something that does keep me awake at night. We're trying very different things to overcome what has become the mediocrity in service. I'm with Danny Meyer 100% in that, in Danny's book, Setting the Table, which he wrote probably now coming up for 20 years ago, and I still think is the best hospitality book that there is. He says, you know, service is present when something happens to you, and it becomes hospitality when that happens for you. And ultimately, that's what we're here to do, is to bridge that gap. How do you bridge that gap in the Caribbean side of Panama, where there is no existing supply of labor? Okay, good.
I have a lot of experience down there. It's not pretty.
Okay. You know, in Dubai, one of the things that we did was for the recruitment process for Viceroy Palm Jumeirah Dubai and the subsequent initial training, we hired a theatre company, an improvisation theatre company, to oversee that process. so that they would help us to identify those people who had natural confidence and spontaneity, and we'd give them the skills afterwards. That led to some teething issues in the first couple of weeks, without a doubt. But the crew that we have, man, can they engage with the guests? Can they pivot in a conversation? Can they create a memory and a memorable engagement that guest will take away? So keeping the emerging generation, you go back to the millennials, I think it's going to be increasingly hard for us to find people who want to work in our industry because they have a passion for hospitality. My kids are 14 and 16. I see entitlement close up every day. And I think it's going to get harder and harder to find that passion for hospitality as we go forward.
Yeah, and I think you take that, and we all are talking about how we're emphasizing food and beverage and growing food and beverage and the different partners. But at the same time, the supply of cooks, the supply of talent in that business is shrinking, and it's getting more and more difficult to figure it out. Danny Meyer also up front on the challenge of gratuities in the restaurant industry and how that counters fair distribution of income within the restaurant model. And that continues to grow as a challenge that I think we face very heavily operating some of the great restaurants. But how do you balance fair income back of the house, front of the house, when you're faced with the gratuity challenge and you just are watching a shortening of the back of the house talent, and then as everybody's opening new and better restaurants, the nice thing for the customer is I do think in our country, in most markets, the elevation of food today is quite impressive. Yeah. But the level of teams to deliver that consistently, it's in much more demand, and I think it continues to be a real challenge that I think will be a real definer of our hotels into the future.
I agree with the comment that Bill made that, while I'm sleeping well at night, what keeps me worried is how do you find great people and keep them in this business, especially where we are in some of these, hard to get to, high barrier to entry resort towns where, people are driving an hour and a half to get there in the cities, even though the restaurants and the hotels and the hospitality enterprises are the lifeblood of those communities and really diversify and bring in, people from all over working there. The towns are reluctant or unable to really deal with a lot of the intransigent issues around providing, housing, providing a living wage and so forth. So that's going to be more and more of an issue.
So I hate to use the word trends, but for lack of a better word, what's one that's talked about too much and one that's not talked about enough? What would you?
So I think we'll all agree that millennials is way too much.
Done.
We talked about that. Done, right?
Done.
As far as things that aren't talked about enough, I think, going back to social responsibility, that right now we're in some challenging times, and the industry needs to address inclusion, diversity, female rights. I mean, there are any number of issues there that really affect so many people in our industry. And I think that that's an issue that needs to be talked about more. Those are issues that need to be talked about more.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Thoughts? I think that an issue that is talked about too much, in addition to millennials, is certainly in my hotels, the power of social media. I think the power of internet-based communication is extraordinarily strong. The immediacy of communication that our customers have to write reviews or to be advocates, to be positive or negative, is great. I think we're still putting, if the general manager says to me in a budget presentation, we're putting significant emphasis on Instagram next year, I'm thinking, dude, don't. Because, yes, it's a face of the business, and yes, we can communicate messages and support the positioning of the brand, but I think we get a little bit too carried away with that. I think the trend that is happening in other industries that will influence ours is the frequency with which products get updated. You sit in your Tesla in the morning and you switch the car on and it downloads an update in its programming. How frequently do you get an update to your Apple iPhone? So I think we've got a customer who's growing up behaviorally expecting the products with which they interact to be updated. And by our nature in hospitality, we've been very static. We've expected to get a 7-year cycle out of a hotel design. That just doesn't, I mean, good news for this audience, you'll be doing more work more frequently. But I think the tolerance, the patience, the acceptance of sameness for a period of time for our audience is changing dramatically. I grew up in an industry where they used to say there are 3 factors for success of a hotel. It's location, 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 and that's rubbish because you have to have a great location or a location to be in the game. I think that the equivalent statement to that today is that those 3 factors are activation, activation, and activation. And I think we're going to need, in order to satisfy a returning guest, to constantly surprise them. And that means they can't just come back to something that looks the same, feels the same, tastes the same, and is the same time and time again.
So no challenge whatsoever?
No. What's a challenge about constant reinvention? But I
an
think that's
obligation.
true. It's an absolute obligation today. You're talking about kids and 14-year-olds, but you have to be like this now.
Yeah.
And that is kind of the future, is if we're not constantly reinventing, if we're not really thinking about that person, that customer, and kind of what they're looking for. It's interesting, I think we're post-trend, because even trend is too long.
Right.
You know, there is a curve, which is the adoption curve, and it used to be, you know, there was a period at which you had something that became new, and you had very few adopters, and then slowly more and more adopters, and you get to the top of that curve, and you can be considered a trend. And really today, by the time you're at that, it's done. Yeah. So the speed of those kind of changes, I think, are really critical. And I do agree that that's a real challenge for an industry that is so physical, right? So what I think you see now is, like, when you start talking, people are talking about programming and events and these things. And I think that's an attempt to get out of the physical barriers that we live in as hotels. And so as we shift from the physicality of a hotel, and maybe I'm the opposite, this might be bad news for you guys. But as we shift from that physicality into the experiential, those are things that we can execute that are through programming, through events, so that there is a life of a hotel far beyond the physical of what we design. And it's interesting in looking at kind of the history of our companies, right? As whether we say it started with Ian or then Barry Sternlick introduced it into a broader market or whatever. Initially, we really relied on the idea of design hotel, as by redefining it, we're going to differentiate ourselves into the design realm, right? And so everybody then jumps on Four Seasons is doing great design today. And that's great, right? But that's still sticking to the physical, and it can't be changed as frequently. So now what you see, I think you see today, is another look at where, whether it be Edition hotels or something like that, that would do the physical, that's a must, right? Mm-hmm. But then how do we have that next element that can change, always be surprising, always be alive? And hotels today need to be alive. It used to be like, oh, you had that opening year and you do lists and you show off and you get on the best awards list, and then that's what carries you for the next 7 years. But today you can't go dark after that first year. You have to have a constant voice.
So are you looking for, keeping in mind our audience, are you looking for designers and collaborators that you work with would you be more impressed? If you had any advice for people coming to pitch you or, in a presentation, I mean, should they be thinking about that? Is that something you're looking for, not only from yourself, but from outside design firms and even architecture firms? We were talking this morning about how, programming is starting from the time you say go at, a remote piece of land, is that something that design firms should be even thinking deeper about when they come to present to you, when you're looking for collaborators?
Yeah, for us, I mean, because we do have a large architectural team and interior team in-house, we do all the programming initially ourselves, but it's interesting because I was looking at the agenda. I was so excited this morning when you had a planning and programming conversation, because it's so rare that people talk about that. And to me, that is how you make hotels. And that understanding is the stage on which all these things, as you say, is the ability to surprise somebody starts there. that's what sets the stage that you can do events, that you can program hotels to keep them alive.
Right.
So I would really emphasize to anybody in design is like hotel programming and planning, and that's really so critical to getting it right. And I think really valuable tool if you have in your packet as a designer, because I do actually think there are still a lot of big operators or brands that really don't have that skill set. Their programming is much more based in standards. Somebody said this morning in that program, it's like the bed has to be here, as opposed to what does the guest want and how do we start a real environment and a real project.
Yeah. Great. I think we have a microphone, maybe. Does anyone in the audience? Oh, yes. Oh, very enthusiastic man right there. They'll bring you the mic somehow. There you go.
Hello, testing. I have to take you to task on a few things because I wrote down some of the comments. My company manufactures, supplies, distributes the most unique products, I believe, known to humankind: leather tile, 3D art, etc. But you talk about how hospitality has been static, acceptance of sameness, breaking through the silos, frequency of updates and innovation. The problem is the people who are really doing the innovation, who are doing the things no one else is doing, cannot get access to you. We have to go through the gatekeepers that you've put in place that prevent us from showing you the things that would blow away your hotel guests. How do you respond? Because, like I said, I love the idea of experiential. My company is the essence of experiential. And what we do, no one else does because we look at the world differently. But the people who look at the world differently are not the people that you have access to. Because for us to get access to you means we have to go through the series of architects and designers, etc., that you've put in place so you don't have to deal with that stuff. So hopefully I tried to be subtle, but hopefully...
We're noticing
Very
that.
subtle.
We're noticing that. All right, so I think they get their question.
Thank you.
I think, well, first of all, I admire the passion for what you do, and I wish everybody I dealt with in business felt as strongly about their product and their business as you do. So I have no idea if you're any good, but I mean, I'm assuming you are because you're passionate about your product. I think, look, you're talking to a panel of people who lead hospitality companies, and by the very nature of the responsibility and the obligations that we have, we all have a lot of balls up in the air at any given time. And we talked a lot on the panel about the importance of collaboration. I hope that whatever we do in Viceroy allows us and pushes us towards choosing collaborators who are open to innovation, who are open to risk, who are open to taking the time to get out there and identify best-in-class emerging providers of both product and service. We work with a plethora of designers. We don't have an in-house design capability. We oversee it, but each project works with a different designer. We're going to open Chicago that we talked about. It's a Vegas-based team. It's Todd and the team from Tao. Extraordinary designers. I trust Todd that in order to keep his business relevant to people like me, he is taking the time to go out there and find people like you. The reality in my life, and I believe in honesty, is I'm never going to have the time to deal with you and all of the other yous that exist out there individually, and I am therefore dependent upon my team and I choosing collaborators in design and architecture that share the values and the ideology that I spoke about earlier, that share our commitment to being unabashed provocateurs, to authenticity and expression of individuality in our designs, and that I need them to find you. But that's frankly just the way it's going to be.
Yeah, so I'm not sure if you were, but I think actually it's funny because your feeling is something I get from our operators as well as our operating teams. But we do have a good team of designers and brand people and all of that kind of stuff. And it's a very valid comment because we spend a lot of time saying that the challenge with being in charge of a brand and all of that kind of stuff is way too many times you have to say no. And unfortunately, sometimes you shouldn't say no and so quickly, and it becomes instinctive. And so I will take your conversation back to my office, because for us, we do actually always question, like, how often do you say no and how often do you listen and see if you can learn something. We try and advocate a concept of listen and learn, and then we still may have to say no. So everybody has a different experience that they're trying to offer to their customer, and even though you're different, it doesn't mean it's the right different for everybody. So,
All right. Any other questions? I'm a little afraid now, but yes. The mic will come up here.
Last car.
Any mic? Nope. Oh, here he comes. Great. And I see him. It's coming, I swear. Okay, go.
Hi. I have a question about sustainability. I'd like to know how you are working sustainability into your new hotel models and into your business operations in general.
Thoughts?
So we started with sustainability with one simple concept, and as I mentioned, we just broke it. So was the most sustainable thing you can do is save an existing building. Don't make more steel, don't create more waste. And I still believe that. I announced that we just did our first new build, so we tried to focus on LEED, which is a challenged and broken system that at least helps. We've done small things. We've eliminated all plastic from all of our mini bars. We recycle all of our garbage in all our hotels. We do that without necessarily making the guest sort, but we actually hire companies that sort. So I think there's a lot hotel companies can do. I think there's far more as humans we can all do in that respect. We can fight a capitalist movement that's taken over the world, but most of us won't. And I'm as guilty as that as anyone else, but we exist in a consumer-driven consumption structure around a capitalist drive to make us do and buy more, which creates more and more waste. So now I'm getting very political. But if we actually realize that and understand that, we can begin to say, how can we as individuals understand the consumption cycle and change it? I grew up in a company that told me that in Cuba they drove old cars because they were so isolated they had no choice. They had to keep these old 50s cars, and we all romanticize those cars and everything. And you go to Cuba today and you find out, no, they actually have Toyotas and everything, and you talk to the person who has the 1950 car, and you find out there was one thing that was core to their revolution was fix, maintain, keep, don't consume, don't waste. And boy, if we could enter that into our valid conversation when we build a hotel, when we renovate hotels, so forth and so on, we would find a great improvement in what we do from a sustainable world point of view.
Any other thoughts?
Sorry, I'm preachy.
No, you're allowed to preach. Nope, good, okay. All right, I know she had a question over there. The mic, oh, sorry, we went back that way. It's coming, not that fast. I feel like we need game show music or something.
Good morning. I'm Cecily Groves, co-owner and founder of Hotel Fubu LLC, a very small brand, very new. And I want to know, does size matter, or is it the motion in the mattress? We're focusing on boutique hotels because innovation is quite a bit more affordable with a smaller size. But am I cutting my nose off despite my face by focusing on smaller properties?
Sorry, I couldn't make it out exactly.
So is the question, does size matter? Is it better to be smaller room size? Can you do more innovation in smaller properties, or what allows you to be, or does it depend on the hotel project?
Obviously, it depends to some degree on what kind of rate we're looking to charge, but we have no problem working with rooms that are 115 square feet. and of course we go up to rooms that are 3,000 square feet. So size in city projects is a lot more difficult, and we like the challenge. We have worked with designers and tell them that, you know, your normal nightstand and the normal standards that brands would give you, we just throw it out the window. It doesn't mean anything to us. We could have a nightstand that's 8 inches wide. It's a place to throw your keys or your phone or whatever. So yeah, room size is something we could adapt to. Not on, you know, on a luxury brands, we can't do you know, a 150 square foot room. But in the side of the business that we're on, we can be very flexible and make almost any room type work.
And if we talk about, I'm not sure if you were talking about room size, or because we can't quite hear you, or hotel size. So we have our smallest hotel has 23 rooms. Our largest hotel has just over 300. And I will tell you that it takes a lot more work to make the small hotel work, in my mind, because you just don't have the advantage of scale in a lot of things. However, if you're starting out and trying to create your own hotel, which we did in our first hotel, it's a lot easier to afford 23 rooms than 300 on your first venture, especially if you want to do it on your own. So I think that it's an interesting problem, because in the very, very small, super boutique kind of place, we painted all the art ourselves, and it was super cool and all that kind of stuff, and got friends to come and do stuff, and we built the furniture, and we thought that was awesome. Then we tried to do it for 300 rooms. It was a really freaking nightmare. When we did our first 300 room hotel, and we were going to paint custom art, which we did, by the way, in every room, it took us almost a year after we were open before the last of the art projects were done. And we had a team curating that for an entire year of just getting artists into rooms and rooms out of order. And so you do find some things that work in a little hotel that just doesn't translate. That being said, the scale of what you can do when you have, you know, the income and the resources on the bigger properties, you can do a lot more activation and a lot more interesting things on a regular scale. Plus, you have a lot more people for an audience, so it makes it more valid.
So our average hotel size is around 50 rooms, and our average room size is pretty large. But you know, we're looking at urban properties now and recognize that that footprint has to shrink quite a bit. And I think across the board, the guiding principles that we have are, you know, what's the experience? And it's not all about the room. The room size isn't where you start. You start with the experience, and making that really count. Delivering an exceptional experience can be done in smaller rooms, obviously, and larger hotels or smaller hotels.
Yeah, just on that, I think, to answer your question directly, size is unimportant. I don't understand how you can run a business without having an underlying ideology for that business, and I don't understand how you could have an ideology that stops at a certain number of keys. You either believe in something or you don't believe in it. You believe in it for 50 rooms or for 500 rooms. If you're an airline, you believe in it for a small commuter jet or an A380. Size should never influence your beliefs. Your beliefs are your beliefs, and you just have to figure out a way to deploy those beliefs irrespective of scale.
All right, well, oh Lord, lots of questions. All right, we'll do one more.
Hi, my name is Yulia, and I am an artist, and I use the studies of neuroscience and psychology of memory to create my artwork. So my question is, how important this approach is to you, and what do you think when you think of the most memorable visitor experience? Thank you.
How important is psychology?
Yeah, we can't understand it. We can't even.
Can you hear me? Yeah.
No.
So, you know, a lot of interior designers use scientific researches, like how visitors respond to certain.
Did you say science?
Yeah,
science.
So,
science.
like the earlier program. Okay.
Sorry, my accent.
No.
It's not your accent, it's the microphone, actually.
Yeah, so what is the most memorable experience means to you, and like the use of psychology when you create beautiful spaces?
I think that the research that has gone into the behavioral impact and the behavioral management of guests through scientific involvement in creation of design, there's probably lots of great stuff to that. I'm like Jay, I've been in this business my whole life. I started taking out the garbage in my uncle's guest house. And the one thing that I've seen in hospitality is the best way to manage guest behavior is to treat them with respect, say please, say thank you, tell the truth. Remember our fundamental obligations as hoteliers, which has always been throughout history, keep our guests safe, keep them warm, keep them nourished. And then to interpret that in a way that is appropriate to the brand. So I think behaviorally there are fundamentals that you do which either make people happy or annoy them. And then I think you put into that the trend that we talked about the need for frequency of activation, of update, of making sure that the sensory experience is multi-layered and meaningful to them. But I'm not aware that we have unleashed a scientifically influenced design attribute that has meaningfully shown us feedback on guest behavior.
Yeah, and I think a lot of what we do probably is more instinctual than scientific, but we try and base our instinct in what we see and observe. So I spend a ton of my time just hanging out in our spaces and observing how people behave in space, how they use the space, how they engage in the space. I obsess on what in our office is called flow, and that has everything through how guests flow through space, and it is instinctive, but it is also a science, and also how staff do, and whether that encourages positive interaction or causes tension spots. So I've felt that the best way, and that's probably why you're saying you're based in the experience from years of being in the hotel industry, but if you want to design hotels, I would say that there is great attribute to just spending time in hotels and observing how people engage when you enter a hotel. What do you want to be able to see and perceive and organize and all that kind of stuff?
Which is remarkable because I also spend a lot of time in your spaces observing your guests, not for the reasons you do.
Well, on that note, and sorry for my little coughing fit, I just want to say thank you all for being here, and a big thank you to our lovely panelists, and enjoy the rest of the show.